Hello everybody, my name is Will from You Know Nothing and welcome back to another Game of Thrones video. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're not already subscribed and you're a fan of my channel from this video, I highly recommend you go and check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing to stay up to date with all Game of Thrones theories and news, etc. So we've just hit 365 subscribers as of recording this video, which is insane, and one of my recent videos about Ghost has got 20,000 views, which is awesome. So if you keep up with the support by liking this video, I would really appreciate it. But this video is my second theory video. The last video I did on a theory was about who the Night King is, but this theory is that Jaime Lannister is Azor Ahai. Now, it's a really good theory. It's probably my favourite theory to date on Game of Thrones, apart from R plus L equals J from way back. But it's also quite a complicated one, so stick with it, and then once it's all explained, I'm pretty sure you'll understand. So this is a theory that's been around for a little while now, and there's a great post of it on the Song of Ice and Fire Reddit, made by Bird82, which I will link in the description down below. I highly recommend you go and read that because it's got some extra stuff that I'm not going to say in this video. So basically, Azor Ahai was a legendary hero who wielded a burning sword called Lightbringer. And according to tales from the followers of the Lord of the Light, he was the guy who fought against the darkness, against the others, over 5,000 years ago. And apparently Azor Ahai is to be reborn again as a champion sent by the Lord of Light, which will occur after a long summer when an evil cold darkness descends upon the world. It is said that wielding Lightbringer once again, Azor Ahai will stand against the others, and if he fails, the world fails with him. So who is this Azor Ahai character going to be? Now, in the early stages of Game of Thrones, Melisandre thought that Stannis Baratheon was going to be Azor Ahai. That's why she stuck with him so much. If you didn't realise that she was like, oh, Stannis, you're so good, when everyone else was like, Stannis, you suck. And then when Melisandre realises that it's not Stannis, I think now she believes that the Prince Who's Promised is going to be Jon Snow.
Are you a virgin?
No, don't do it. I'm a virgin.
And so did Rhaegar, Jon's dad, in one of Daenerys' visions. She saw Rhaegar standing over a baby saying, this is the Prince Who's Promised, and his song will be a song of ice and fire. So there's strong ties that the Prince Who's Promised, Azor Ahai, could be Jon Snow, but I don't believe George R.R. Martin is as transparent as that. I have a feeling that he'll want the hero of the whole series to be a character that not many people expect. Hence the theory that Jaime Lannister is Azor Ahai. So the followers of the Lord of the Light, which is where the stories of Azor Ahai come from, there's people that have kind of made a dictionary for Valyrian words, which I don't know how they managed to do that. They must have so much time on their hands. However, I'm also making a Game of Thrones video for YouTube, so I can't really say that much. Valyrian words for Lord and Light are, and I'm probably going to completely butcher these names, but Lord is Aixio and Light is Onos. However, gold is Aixion, and hand is Ondos, which are very similar. There's just one letter different in both of them. So it's possible that it just could be a miscommunication, misunderstanding, passing through the generations from Gold Hand to Lord of Light. And it could have started a whole religion about something that should be to do with the Gold Hand, to do with Lord of Light. And as we know, the Golden Hand, who has a Golden Hand, is Jaime Lannister. So Jaime as a character has a huge redemption arc, going from pushing Bran out of a tower in season 1 in the first episode with everybody hating him to where he is today. So the legend of Lightbringer being the sword that Azor Ahai had, goes as follows. Darkness lay over the world, and a hero, Azor Ahai, was chosen to fight against it. To fight the darkness, Azor Ahai needed to forge a hero's sword. And then it continues in 3 other sections, which I will go on to explain, with 3 significant things that happened to Jaime throughout the story. So one of the big things that happened that went from Jaime Lannister being a Kingslayer that everybody hated to Jaime that people now seem to like is when he lost his hand. So by losing his hand, he got rid of his Kingslayer persona, as he also lost his perceived corruption, which was symbolised by his sword hand, which he used to kill the Mad King, which he used to kill countless other people in battle. That was what his perceived corruption was, and with losing that, symbolically he lost some of the badness that came with his character, and he was almost reborn as Jaime, a different character. Jaime goes on to say, I was that hand.
My sword hand. I was that hand.
And when Qyburn is treating his new stump, He says something about stemming the corruption, and Jaime actually repeats what Qyburn says, which could signify some kind of importance. As Jaime lost his hand, he's no longer the Kingslayer that Cersei loved that much, so she no longer likes him as much. Now he's born as a new Jaime. So the prophecy of the Legend of Lightbringer goes on to say that the sword, the hero's sword, must be forged 3 times. So, this is where the Jaime theory really kicks in. So the first section of the prophecy is called the Kingslayer Confession. So the prophecy goes as follows. He laboured for 30 days and 30 nights until it was done. However, when he went to temper it in water, the sword broke. So after he loses his hand, he's at Harrenhal with Brienne in the bath, and they're sharing quite a deep story about the Kingslayer killing Aerys, and Jaime becomes kind of a more likeable character at this point. Jaime then passes out in the bath as he is a broken man, both emotionally and physically in the bath. Therefore, he's broken in the water, just as the prophecy says. So the second part we're calling the Tysha Confession. So the prophecy continues as follows. The second time he took 50 days and 50 nights to make the sword, even better than the first. To temper it this time, he captured a lion and drove the sword into its heart, but once more the steel shattered. So this links to Jaime's story when Jaime defies Cersei and frees Tyrion from the cells after Joffrey's trial. Jaime then goes on to confess his role in the Tysha story. So this is where it differs slightly from the books than the TV show. So in the books, Tyrion is the lion that the sword is driven into, metaphorically, when Jaime tells him about Tysha. So if you don't know the Tysha backstory, basically Tyrion fell in love with this woman called Tysha, married her. But just because she was a common girl, Tywin didn't like that, so he made up a story and he got Jaime to tell Tyrion that she's actually a whore and she doesn't really love him and she's just with him for his money. So in this scene, Jaime tells him the truth, that she's not actually a whore, she did really love him, and that's like driving a sword into Tyrion's heart with the amount of pain that it actually caused him. However, on the TV show, I think that they're portraying Tywin as the lion that is stabbed in the heart, as obviously Tyrion shoots him in the heart as a result of Jaime's actions. Now, obviously, we know that the Lannister's sigil is a lion, which is where the lion bit of the prophecy links in. So the third bit of the prophecy goes as follows. He worked for 100 days and 100 nights until it was finished. This time he called for his wife and asked her to bare her breast. He drove the sword into her breast, her soul combining with the steel of the sword, creating Lightbringer, while her cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon. It's pretty deep, really, isn't it? But basically, after Jaime returns from Riverrun in Season 6, he sees Cersei on the Iron Throne after she's burnt down the Sept, and I think he realises in that moment that something needs to be done to Cersei to stop her in her path. Now, we know from watching Season 7 now that he doesn't actually do anything so far apart from leave her right at the end. But for this theory to be true about Jaime, he needs to kill Cersei to complete the sword for the 3rd time. However, with the book theory, with the driving the sword into the lion's heart bit with Tyrion, he didn't physically put a sword in Tyrion's heart. So with this, with Cersei, he might not physically have to kill her. It could be something else. But I think that Jaime and Cersei are the only 2 characters, really, that have the relationship and the love fitting for the prophecy. Could argue that Jon and Daenerys now have a kind of love, but I have a feeling in the next season they're kind of going to break apart, and it's not going to happen the way that a lot of fan theory people want it to happen. So some of the stuff that kind of supports the theory that Jaime is going to kill Cersei is the Valonqar theory, another theory that they did actually include in the TV show at the beginning of Season 5, where Cersei sees Maggie the Witch, and the witch says, you're going to have 3 children and they're all going to die, etc, etc. It also says that she will die to the hand of a little brother. Now, Cersei, obviously, for most of her life, has believed that this is going to be Tyrion, which is one of the reasons why she's hated Tyrion so much. However, with this theory, it could actually be Jaime that is the little brother that finishes her off. Now, you might be like, they're twins, so Jaime's not a little brother. Actually, Jaime was born a couple of minutes after Cersei, meaning that technically he is a little brother. So on the show in Season 7, they've used some visual foreshadowing where Jaime and Cersei are standing on the map of Westeros. Jaime is standing on a bit called the fingers, and Cersei is standing on a bit called the neck, possibly foreshadowing that Jaime's going to strangle her. And also in Season 7 in the TV show, Cersei claims that she's pregnant. So if Cersei does actually die from giving birth to them, Jaime also put the baby inside her, so indirectly he is also killing her. Also with a sword. Not a metal sword, a different kind of sword. So if Jaime is Azor Ahai, what is going to be Lightbringer? Now, I don't think that is going to actually be a sword, whereas, as we said at the beginning of this video to do with the Valyrian words, the gold hand, his gold hand could be Lightbringer. Now hear me out. What was once Jaime's corruption, aka his sword hand, is reborn, which is the mark of a prophesized hero. Once the best swordsman in Westeros gone down to being one of the worst, will be whole once again. So there's a passage in A Storm of Swords, one of the books, where it says, his hand burned still long after they had snuffed out the torch they'd used to sear his bloody stump. Days after, he could still feel the fire lancing up his arm and his fingers twisting in the flames, the fingers he no longer had. Which to me makes kind of a hint towards his fiery hand. So there's a lot of other visual evidence in the show, for example, with Jojen Reed. Mira asks Jojen, when will we know it's the end? And Jojen replies something like, you'll know when it's the end, and his hand is on fire. Also, with one of the last scenes on season 7, when Jaime is riding away from King's Landing to go up north to help everyone else, he's got his gold hand and he's putting a glove on his gold hand, but it's snowing, and a snowflake drops on his gold hand, which, because it's not a human hand, it's not filled with blood and it's not warm, you'd assume that it would be cold, however the snowflake still melts. So to conclude this theory, Jaime is the hero, the prince that was promised. In a lot of circumstances in the show, he prefers peace instead of violence, for example Riverrun. However, when he's influenced by Cersei, violence does tend to happen. He's not really motivated for greed or power like a lot of other characters are, and I don't think George R.R. Martin, the author, likes obvious. So if Jon Snow was the prince who was promised, I don't know, I think at this point I would kind of be a little bit disappointed. The fact that the theory to do with Jaime is a lot cleverer. And it's also deep and meaningful, so Jaime will have to sacrifice his love, someone who he can see a part of himself in, for the greater good. And if the prince who was promised is Jon Snow, a hero being a hero all the way along the story is a little bit boring, and I don't feel like that's Game of Thrones' way. But there we go everybody, hopefully I've explained that quite well. It's quite an in-depth theory, but in my opinion, it's one of the best theories out there so far. Let me know in the comments what you think, let me know if there's any other alterations or anything else that support this theory that you know of. Like the video if you enjoyed it or you learned something new, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Alright, thank you very much everybody. We'll see if this comes true in the next season of Game of Thrones, I guess, and I'll see you all on my next video. Adios.